based on what I see is a particular bias that went on here. Now, I never liked the fact how I thought we had a First Amendment right, but Roger Stone was denied even an opportunity to send out a tweet pleading his case.
Oh, she said that today. She said, oh, people in the media say I silenced you. I didn't silence you. This was the most draconian, prohibitive gag order I've ever seen.
Okay, so how did we get this ultimately out of this judge's courtroom, and what is the process for appeal? Now, are you officially on Roger Stone's defense team, or are you just helping out on the side?
Just following the case very closely at this point.
But you've spoken with him personally?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
A few moments ago.
All right, so now he's out. I guess now that he's been sentenced, he has how much time to file this appeal? Where will he file that appeal?
Well, the juror misconduct issue is pending before the judge, and she may well have a hearing about that next week. Let me be clear. I'm not speaking for Roger Stone, and I don't want to say Roger Stone.
No, that's fair, but I mean, so we're going back to the same judge that clearly doesn't like Roger Stone. How do you get it out of that courtroom?
Well, there's a question. Were her comments today, did they go too far when she already made a finding? This jury acted with complete integrity and asked thoughtful questions. She has a juror misconduct issue before her. But, you know,
okay, if she doesn't want to deal with that issue specifically, now I think we've got to get they have these jury questionnaires. I think it would be critical to Stone's defense. I would assume this is almost considered Brady material, like, and they would have a right to know what was in there. And, for example, did the defense, not knowing this, they certainly would have rejected any person that had such a bias. But now that the judge knows that this individual is biased specifically against Roger Stone, it seems to me that this ought to be a slam dunk retrial. Boom. End of sentence.
Well, you're right. Not only Roger Stone's team does have access to the questionnaire, but you should have access to it. This is a matter of great public interest. The judge has sealed all the proceedings. They shouldn't be sealed any longer. The juror's name is out there. She's tweeted publicly.
Yeah, by the way, this is the same judge, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure, in the Manafort case, right?
Correct. And that's another question.
The same judge that unsealed my private text messages. That judge?
That's right. Why does this judge have so many of these cases? Why are they considered related cases? They don't seem to follow the related case rule and all of that. But the question is, the public deserves to know all of these facts. This is a public proceeding. The integrity of the system depends on honest jurors not being affected by extraneous influence.
All right. I want to know the process we're going to go through next, or what options Roger Stone has and what time period he has to work this through.
And it's my strong opinion that the forewoman of the jury, the woman who was in charge of the jury, is totally tainted. When you take a look, how can you have a person like this? She was a anti-Trump activist. Can you imagine this? Now, I don't know if this is a fact, but she had a horrible social media account. The things she said on the account were unbelievable. She didn't reveal that when she was chosen.
All right, as we continue, 800-941-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number. At the top of the hour, just decimated Michael Bloomberg yesterday. The issue of race, redlining, his comments, a big part of the debate last night. We'll get full reaction, and Kayleigh McEnany, and your calls coming up. All right, David Schoen, in the 2 minutes we have, what is the process by which Roger Stone will get the new trial he certainly deserves?
Here's the process. They have a juror misconduct motion pending. The judge has seen all of that. The defense asked for it to be sealed in an abundance of caution, but now there's no reason for it to be sealed. The juror's name is out there. It's a matter of great public interest. That motion will be decided on next week, I believe. I believe she's going to have a hearing next week. I think it's a foregone conclusion, though, based on her comments today, which I thought were totally inappropriate, characterizing the jury as having acted with great integrity.
All right, well, let's assume this judge is not going to grant that request. Where do they go next?
She denies it, then their only avenue is to appeal the entire decision at that point. And that's an issue for the appeal. So that's going to, that process takes a while. She ordered him today to surrender not earlier than 2 weeks after she decides that motion, but he has to get designated to a facility. He got a 40-month sentence in this case when other people are going scot-free without being prosecuted. And her talk today, despite her disclaimers, was so political. She kept mentioning, it was a Republican majority in the committee, and people say, this is political. Well, it's not. And then the entire talk, most of the talk was political. By the way, the prosecutor...
Do you think this judge in particular, based on you sitting in that courtroom, has a political bias?
Yes, I do. She's a smart person. She knows how to make her record, but she clearly is offended by Republican politics, in my opinion. That's what I got out of her talk today. She kept mentioning, listen, Devin Nunes is the one who referred this thing, and he was the head of the committee, and so on. Republicans.
David Schoen, thanks for sharing all your insight in the courtroom with Roger Stone today. When we come back, a disaster. Bloomberg hammered by his fellow Democrats with no response. We'll talk about that when we get back, and much more. We'll get to your phone calls. News Roundup Information Overload Hour is next as we continue.
Stay right here for our final news roundup and information overload in the final hour of the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, news roundup, information overload hour, Sean Hannity Show, 800-941. Sean, if you want to be a part of the program. Well, Bloomberg got hit and hit hard as it relates to the issue of stop and frisk and race last night. And by the way, rightly so. I mean, the farmer issue, I guess, was not even as big a deal as it could be, but to me it should be. You know, murderers and murder victims, they fit one MO. You just take the description, you Xerox it, you pass it out to all cops. They are male minorities, 16 to 25. One description, one MO. One. Only one. Take that, Xerox it. Every cop can get it. And he goes on to say, well, you know, people say, well, we're going to take these young minorities and cops throw them up against the wall. And people say, my gosh, well, you're arresting kids for marijuana and they're all minorities. He says, yeah, all true. That's all true. Why? Because we put all, not some, all cops in minority neighborhoods. Why? Because that's where all the crime is. I mean, and then this phony, apology about a policy that he implemented and kept in place for 12 years. 12 years. Stop and frisk. And it's not even about the policy to me, because I would argue socioeconomics play the bigger part in, areas where there might be a higher concentration of crime, and putting more police resources, limited resources in the areas where there is a greater need makes sense, but not all, because I live in New York and I can tell you right now that is a lie. I mean, it's a spectacular lie on Bloomberg's part, and he got clobbered last night. And also the issue of redlining was another big issue involving race. His half-hearted apology, all that is an election year conversion. Everybody sees this for what it is. 12 years he supported the policy, defended the policy. Now we know what he was saying behind the scenes. And then 5 years de Blasio was the mayor. He never said a word about his policies, not once. Then he decides to run for president. And he says, well, the Democratic Party, big part of the base is African Americans and Hispanic Americans and minorities. They may not like the fact that I have this policy, so I'm going to act like I'm crying about it and change my opinion. And his answer was pathetic last night, like everything else Bloomberg did, an utter disaster. Daryl Parks is managing partner, Parks and Crump, former attorney for Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin's family, and Jack Brewer is a former American football safety, played professionally in the NFL for the Vikings, the Giants, the Eagles, and the Arizona Cardinals. Welcome both of you to the program. Daryl Parks, I think I know you pretty well. We've gotten to know each other. We're friends. I would even say we're friends. I hope you think the same. I know where your heart is. I read this just one MO thing and Xerox it and pass it out and throw minority kids up against the wall and only arrest minority kids for marijuana because they only have cops in minority neighborhoods because that's where all the crime is. I would imagine that you don't like those comments very much, because I certainly don't.
Well, without question, I don't like them, Sean, but I do think we're in an election season, and I would think that we shouldn't just be let one issue decide how we feel about any candidates. Nobody ever agrees with any candidate fully on all of the issues, but I don't think this is an issue that should stop Mr. Bloomberg's candidacy. However, we all see that last night he didn't do well. And I think without question it probably opened up a little bit more opportunity for Joe Biden to make his stake. And he did make his stake a little bit better last night. But Bloomberg obviously has some issues that he has to deal with, and it seems as if his team is starting to deal with those issues.
Well, I tend to agree. Well, but I disagree. I think if Donald Trump had said this, Daryl Parks, you would be all over him and much harder because, look, you lean more left than I do. Let's be honest. You're not going to vote for Donald Trump, right?
Well, let me.
No. That's a simple question. You're not going to vote for Donald Trump. I know you well enough. You can say it. It's fine. You're not going to vote for Trump, are you?
But let me say this.
Wait a minute. Are you not going to? Well, no. You're not going to vote for Donald Trump, are you?
I think you got to allow me to answer, Sean.
I think you need to answer that simple question. That is a yes or no question. Would you consider voting for Trump this election year?
You got to let me explain, though. You got to let me explain.
I'll let you explain, but after you answer, you would never consider voting for Trump, would you?
I wouldn't say that. I would be open to that if he made an argument that was something that appealed to me.
I have an argument for you. How about this? All the presidents that promised criminal justice reform because of disparate sentencing, they never got it done. Donald Trump did. Alice Marie Johnson, I'll never forget, one of the most inspirational figures I've gotten to know. I consider her a friend. I love her. She's amazing.
But Sean,
thank you, America. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, America, for giving me a second chance. I won't let you down. Let's bring in Jack Brewer. Jack, your take on all this. I'd also say record low unemployment. We were shattering record low unemployment for every minority group in the country: African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, youth unemployment, and Jack Brewer, African American youth unemployment. That didn't happen under Biden, Obama. That happened under Trump.
That's right. And I can tell you right now, I watched the entire debate last night, and I sat there and watched the author of the 1994 crime bill call the author of Stop and Frisk racist. I've never seen a lower moment for the Democratic Party. I grew up a Democrat, so I voted for Obama. I ran NFL players for Obama. I supported him, fundraised for him. But I got to call a spade a spade. It's not always about the personality. It's not always about the words that come out of someone's mouth. It's more about the policies that they push. You see, Michael Bloomberg pushed the policies he believed in. And so we got to hold him accountable for that. And so I think, to your point, Sean, if President Trump had been a Democrat, I think most Democrats across the board would be calling him the best president for black folks since Abe Lincoln. Look at the policies he's put in place. I mean, the fact that he came in and within 3 months of his presidency, he saved historical black colleges and universities around this country that were suffering. Some of them were about to go bankrupt. He saved them. That's what he did within the first 3 months of his presidency. He's done more for blacks.
Well, let me ask you this, Jack Brewer. You see these records, record low unemployment for specific demographic groups that, remember, the president ran on, well, you can't do any worse. What have you got to lose? I've never seen, I mean, because every 2 and 4 years, you see politicians. We always see the race card played, and Republicans are racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic. They want dirty air and water, and they want grandma and grandpa thrown over a cliff. That's pretty much the playbook. But now we have a president whose policies specifically working for minorities in America, part of our American family, as the president says in his rallies. And I'm looking at the support the president has anywhere between 16 and 34.5% in the last 10 polls with African Americans. He only got 8% of the African American vote in 2016. Does this translate into votes, including criminal justice reform?
It already has started, and that's what the left doesn't want to admit to. Sean, if you look, there's a black awakening going on in America right now. I am in a prison every week. I teach in prisons across this country. And I can tell you right now that those prisoners appreciate President Trump because he came and ended mass incarceration of blacks. And for someone black in America right now today to see all of these historic legislations being passed to help us, anybody that doesn't give President Trump credit for this is just being disingenuous.
And Darryl Parks, I mean, I am happy that, you know, after 8 years where we added 13 million more Americans to food stamps, 8 million more Americans in poverty after 8 years of Biden Obama, that now we have almost 8 million new jobs created, 8 million fewer people on food stamps, and we have the lowest unemployment that we've had in 50 years, and we're shattering record after record for every demographic in this country. How great is that?
Sean, let me just, I have to say this.
Come on, that's easy. How great is that? We got 8 years of Biden, Obama.
It's not great when he's
cutting
educational expenses.
Great.
Sean, last year alone, President Trump suggested that we cut the educational budget by $8.5 billion.
So what he's saying is not about the amount of money you spend, it's how you spend it. So if you're putting money into an educational system that is wasting money with all these teachers union and overpaying schools that don't work, it's about how you spend the money, not how much money you spend.
He's suggesting that we cut Pell Grants. He's suggesting we cut SELG grants.
But look at the way that.
But he's opening opportunity zones.
He's not saying
add that.